At first glance, the Galaxy S26 Ultra looks like Samsung played it safe. If you think it's basically the same phone as the S25 Ultra, you're not completely wrong. But you're also missing the bigger picture. Once you break it down, there are nearly 30 changes, and several of them matter far more than they seem on paper. Let's start with design, because this is where the differences are immediately visible. The S26 Ultra measures 7.9 millimeters thick without the camera module, which tells you exactly what Samsung is still chasing: thinness. Flip the phone over and you'll notice the biggest visual shift. The individual camera rings are gone, replaced by a full-width camera bar. It brings the Ultra in line with the rest of Samsung's design language, but there's a trade-off. Once you include the camera bar, the phone is actually thicker than the S25 Ultra, and it no longer sits flat on a table. The phone is also slightly taller and wider, but the more meaningful change is the feel. The corners are now rounded, the frame curves on all sides, and even the S Pen has been moved to the left and reshaped to match the new geometry. Despite the size increase, the weight drops to 214 grams, continuing Samsung's quiet but consistent push toward lighter Ultra phones. Now let's talk about the display, because this is where Samsung actually did real engineering work. The S26 Ultra finally moves from the M13 OLED to the newer M14 panel. Peak brightness may still top out around 2,600 nits, which sounds underwhelming until you look deeper. Samsung is reportedly introducing a COE, color on encapsulation, or depolarizer-style display, removing the traditional polarizer layer and restructuring the panel stack. The result? More light passes through the display, meaning better efficiency, a thinner screen, and potentially better outdoor visibility, even without higher peak brightness, all while using less power. There's also a built-in AI privacy display that can dynamically narrow viewing angles without a physical privacy filter. If Samsung executes this properly, it's a genuinely meaningful upgrade. There are rumors of 10-bit color and high-frequency PWM dimming, but even reliable leakers aren't fully confident yet. That uncertainty is frustrating, especially since the M14 panel is capable of more than Samsung may be allowing. On the glass side, Samsung may move to a third-generation Gorilla Armor with improved anti-reflective properties. However, there is one undeniable visual downgrade. The front camera cutout is larger, and yes, it's noticeable. Moving on to cameras, and this is where things get more interesting than they appear. On paper, the setup looks identical to the S25 Ultra, but it isn't. The main camera aperture widens from f/1.7 to f/1.4, which is a substantial upgrade. More light means faster shutter speeds, better subject separation, and cleaner night shots. The 5x periscope camera also gets a quiet but important boost, opening from f/3.4 to f/2.9, which significantly improves low-light zoom performance. The 3x telephoto, however, is more complicated. Samsung is switching from a 10MP sensor to a 12MP one, but it still outputs 10MP images, and the new sensor is actually smaller. That means the most frequently used zoom lens may struggle even more in low light than before. The selfie camera remains 12MP, but the larger punch hole allows for a wider 85 degrees field of view, up from 80 degrees. That's a win for group selfies and vlogging. Samsung is also upgrading autofocus hardware, improving reliability in difficult lighting conditions. On the software side, Samsung plans to switch default photos from 12MP to 24MP, which could be the sweet spot: sharper images without the massive storage hit of full-resolution modes. There's also talk of a focus speed slider for creators, and finally APV video, a near-lossless log format with built-in LUTs for on-device editing. In terms of performance, the S26 Ultra is expected to run the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. CPU, GPU, and AI gains are all substantial, but real-world performance will come down to cooling. Samsung is reportedly adding a vapor chamber up to 15% larger, which should improve sustained performance and reduce throttling. RAM and storage capacities stay the same, but the RAM itself is 25% faster, leading to smoother multitasking and faster app switching. Finally, battery and charging. Battery capacity doesn't change, so any endurance improvements will come from efficiency, not size. But charging finally gets real upgrades. Wired charging jumps from 45W to 60W, the first meaningful Ultra charging increase in years, and it reportedly doesn't require a special 5 amp cable. Wireless charging increases from 15W to 25W, and Samsung is adding built-in magnets for perfect alignment without a special case. There is a downside. Reverse wireless charging may be removed, as it doesn't play well with the new magnet system. So no, the Galaxy S26 Ultra isn't a revolution, but it's also far from a copy-paste upgrade. It's a phone built on subtle but meaningful changes, many of which won't stand out in spec sheets but will absolutely show up in daily use.